It's time to learn some Python with Jordan and Jackie. Today we're covering assigning and using variables, and we're using Replit as our IDE again. So Jackie, what's a variable?
A variable is a piece of information that we want the computer to remember, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
One caveat, this information will only be remembered by the computer until the end of the program. So when the
Okay.
program stops, this is gone.
So in this context, the computer has no long-term memory. It's a forgetful goldfish.
That's it. that's what is a variable.
Okay. And the fact that it's called a variable, that suggests that we're going to be able to vary it, change it.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yep. And why don't you show us how we create and set the value of a simple variable?
Here we are. So x equal 5. The equal here is to assign a value to a variable.
Yeah, in my experience, that's something that we all find tricky when we first start programming. What does equals mean? We'll worry about the other meaning of equals later, but yes, in this case, that equal sign is saying, I suppose like in maths often, it is setting the value of the thing on the left, the x, equal to the thing on the right, which in this case is just a literal, the number 5.
Yeah, so we used the print function in the past video to show on the console. So
cool, let's see what
X.
happens.
Yeah.
5. Wow, what do you know?
We show 5, yeah.
So just by the way, for the purposes of today's lesson, we're just going to use number variables. There are other types, but we're going to cover that in a separate thing.
But it's a variable.
Yeah.
I could put 8. That also
Cool.
works.
So what about the choice of x as the name there, Jackie? Is that the sort of thing we generally want to do?
Well, we can use any names for our variable as long as it is meaningful in the code. When a developer read the code, it needs to make sense. So if you play with x and y in a
in a
equation,
formula,
absolutely fine. But then, other than that, I would suggest to give more context, longer names. Yeah.
So in fact, we're going to have a lesson about naming conventions later. But yeah, so cool. V1, variable 1. You generally don't want your names to be too long because you have to type them a lot. Okay, so now you're creating a second variable. Great. And so what happens if you try to print those?
So we would print V1, and we could also print V2.
Okay.
So we have two variables basically coexisting in the same program, absolutely fine, and we print 1 and 2.
So now let's see, will you show us if I want to change the value of V1 to something else still while the program is running? Will you show us how we do that?
Yeah, so we have V1 here. We could change V1 here and put it to 7.
Do you want to maybe put an extra print above that so we can see it before and after the change?
So we could see it here, print V1.
Cool.
Let's see. So in the console, we have the number 8. So that's the first time we show V1.
Yeah.
And then we have the number 7.
Because we just changed
the second one.
Yeah.
And then we have still V2. That is the value 5.
So, Jackie, if I don't want to always have to type in the exact value of the variable, maybe I want to set one variable equal to another during my program or something like that. Is that possible? Can I do that?
Of course. So let's say we have V3, a third variable, and then we're going to put that equal to V1.
Cool.
Right. So that means that if we print V3 here, what shall we expect? Then we have 7. Which is the last value of
that V1 had. And then just prove to me that this is the case. If between line 10 and 11 there you add another line where you change the value of V1.
Right. So we're going to put V1 here at 3.
Yeah.
And rerun that. And so we see that the number 3 doesn't appear.
Yeah. Okay, and I think that's important to note because basically when we set the value on line 10 there, we're setting the value of variable V3 equal to the value at that time of variable V1.
Correct.
So it's kind of taking a snapshot of it, saving it somewhere else, and then anything we do to V1 is separate.
Yeah.
Okay, well, obviously, this is all really boring because we haven't yet covered adding and subtracting and all sorts of things like that.
Absolutely.
But I hope this shows you the basics.
The core of it
Yeah.
is saving a piece of information.
Yeah. And then being able to access it later.
Yeah.
And that's why every variable needs a unique name.
Yeah.
Can't have two things called... If I was called Jackie and you were called Jackie, this would all be very confusing, wouldn't it? Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. We will see you next time.